Hello friends and welcome. It's time for a hard support tier list. It's been a while since we've done this, but we got to do our part to get the next patch out and immediately invalidate this. So what you see right here, this is what I think is the professional scene, top level meta heroes. If you care about that, then there you go, but you often don't really see the meta follow in pub games, so we're not going to switch this list up to what you can actually play to gain MMR in the chaos of pub games. All right, so let's just make our way down from the S tier. We can briefly talk about why they're good at the pro level, why that maybe doesn't transfer over to pub games, starting with Naga Siren. So even with the nerf to Deluge, she's still really strong in the laning stage, and then Ensnare is just useful. Root, the reel in, pretty funny and can put people out of position. But then the song reset is so powerful for early fights. You want to be active with this hero, and that's why it works at the pro level, because they're going to capitalize on all of this. The coordination around song, really good. Naga Siren support ends up being pretty farmed. Pub games, you're not being given a ton of space. Core players tilt out when they see you farming with illusions, keeping wave shoved out. They don't understand it. The song, right, you're going to grief your own teammates intentionally or not, I don't know, but it happens quite often. Very tricky support to pull off. I would say if you are divine or higher, you'll find more success with Naga if you spend the time to learn the hero. But for as you make your way down to those Herald ranks, it's pretty tough to pull out. I'd actually put her in D tier for pub games. I'm just gonna put these heroes on the right. Don't worry about the left to right order. Let's try to do this to try to keep track of who's where. So next, Shadow Demon. At the pro level, he just has insane utility. His ultimate, the Dispel that pierces BKB, really good. The laning stage, pretty solid. Not as easy to pull off as some of these other supports you see up here, but the pros can do it. The Shadow Poison stacking, his passive stacking, it's usually solid damage. Even if you don't get a bunch out of the laning stage, you can do a ton of stacks with your poison. So just insane utility throughout the entire game. In your pubs, a little trickier to pull off, especially disruption that your teammates maybe don't fully understand, and the exact, the pro level, it's oh, how much we're gonna get done in our BKB, and then you ult them with Shadow Demon, and then the response, in this time of his ultimate, we're gonna get all this done. Pub games have a lot more lax use of BKBs and stuff, if they even exist in the game. There's less auras to counter with the Shadow Demon ultimate, so not as good. Laning stage, your teammates will not know how to work with you as well, but a lot of your opponents won't really appreciate Shadow Poison damage, fully understand the passive stacking. So I think if you spend the time to learn Shadow Demon, he's actually still really solid, and if you play towards the higher ranks, I still think he's actually quite good, better than Naga. Even in my games, I find Naga a little tricky to pull off sometimes, but Shadow Demon, I think, finds more success. I'd probably put him somewhere A to B tier, depending how well you know how to play Shadow Demon. I'm gonna stick him in B tier for now. Maybe we'll move him around. Right side. Tusk is another hero with crazy utility. The laning stage is really strong. There's a couple different builds you can go depending what you need, but typically one of the strongest laners right now, as well as then just early rotations. Even though Drinking Buddies got nerfed, you will see people go that sometimes just because the extra utility is nice. Tag team has become popular again, but you have a physical block with ice shards, snowball stun, but also snowball save. The ultimate pierces BKB, and then that utility from the whatever facet you end up choosing. Just really great hero, but it requires a lot of, one, strong laners to make use of the Tusk, and then the early active gameplay that Tusk loves. In pub games, especially the lower ranked ones, lots of passive gameplay. That's where Tusk, he doesn't do as much if nothing is happening. He's also very tricky, so the people who want to play Tusk, it's a high skill cap, right? The skills on paper don't sound too complicated, but getting the Ice Shard block off correctly and not accidentally blocking your team off, the snowball save, using that at the right time, all that stuff, very tricky. You have to really push the limits with Tusk. And then it's not just you, so Shadow Demon, right? You could learn what you do with Shadow Demon and kind of execute that a bit on your own, those Shadow Poison stacks kind of need some teammate help, but Tusk really needs his teammates to shine. And so even when you learn Tusk, if your teammates don't know how Tusk works and don't know how to help you push your limits, you're not going to find as much success. So I think at higher rank games, he's still quite high tier, SA, somewhere in here. The lower ranks you go, I'd honestly put him down here just because you'll accidentally grief yourself quite often. And his pub win rate is pretty low. I think around 45% win rate, just because he's very high skill and he often gets nerfed because the pros are abusing this hero, and it means for pub games it's just harder to pull off. So I think I'm going to put him in this D tier. Maybe he should go a little higher, but for a lot of just average pub games, I think he's quite tricky. Clockwork, I made a guide on him, so you maybe already know my thoughts, but I think Expanded Armature is just great, helps you through the laning stage. Battery Assault, just good laning stage off of that. You can rotate pretty early at the pro level. Hookshot, fantastic for BKB stuns. Also very good versus like this Naga Siren Song. There's some counterplay between these two heroes, but that's what Clock has versus the Naga, is that when she songs, you can still hookshot in and stun people trying to get away. The cogs disrupt the fight. Pub games, that's very similar. A lot of people don't know how to navigate power cogs correctly, or they'll just wander in the jungle alone in the laning stage and you can battery assault them to death. So Clockwork actually does quite well in pub games as well as the pro scene. I would put him somewhere like S to A tier, I think. We'll move heroes around maybe a bit more at the end once we see like who else is in the tier list. But I mean, I think he's awesome just because a lot of pub games are often just a bunch of farming heroes and you need someone to make plays. But even if you end up in a very passive game, Clockwork has some farming skills. Again, all in the Clockwork guide. Go check it out. The issue is you don't have as much solo win potential. That's why I'm kind of iffy on putting him in this S tier. I'll put him in A tier for now. I think he just offers so much, but in terms of solo winning games, it does depend on you being active and knowing what to do as Clockwork, showing up to the lanes, and then your guy in the mid lane went back to go jungle, and I don't know. So that's where it can be a little sad. But I do think he fills a lot of the gaps you need in pub games, so we'll keep him in A tier. Enchantress, really strong laner. You use the creeps to win the lane. You go rotate really quickly, tank towers, dive, stuff like that. Take a lot of early objectives. But then Impetus, insane scaling. You become this extra damage dealer that you can't be ignored or you'll just kill everyone. Often a horrible win rate in pubs because she's really hard to play. A lot of people don't have the micro required to use the creeps, or the games are too passive to really take advantage of that. But what you can take advantage of in pub games is the Impetus damage, and you eventually scale and become this secondary, or maybe it's more like third or fourth extra carry on your team, and everyone's ignoring you. Oh, it's just Enchantress support, and then the Impetus kills you. So because of that, I think if you spend the time to learn Enchantress and then go for the Impetus build as a default, you could do quite well for yourself. But you will need at least a little bit of micro to get through that laning stage, and that's not for everyone. I'll put her in C tier compared to Chen, who I will put in D tier. We're going to skip ahead to Chen just because Chen and Enchantress are very, very similar. The micro, again, very difficult for many pub players to get the correct level out of it. You can just simulate the aura building style and jungle, and that doesn't take much micro. You can just A-click different camps. But then you're jungling as a position 5, and the carries aren't going to know how to deal with that. They're not going to know how to follow up on your aura timings. The higher in MMR you go, then Chen and Enchantress, of course, both go up. And I'd say by Ancient Divine, if you know how to play these heroes, I'd start moving them up to up a tier or two, B to A tier-ish. And then, of course, once you're back at the top levels, S to A. But across the board, on average, just Chen, he's not going to have a great time trying to coordinate with his team to push a fast tempo. So put him down here. Oh, but those heroes are rated high in the pro games because, of course, they just love the stability of a strong lane and the early active gameplay. Phoenix. Oh, so to finish the thought, at the pro level, the Shadow Demon, Naga, Tusk, Clockwork, those are the big four. Shadow Demon and Naga are banned all the time, and sometimes Clock and Tusk slip through, and then they're quickly picked up because of that. Sometimes they're also banned because they're also just that good. So those would be my top 4, and then after that, you get into these other heroes that we're now talking about, such as Enchantress, and then Phoenix, decent laner, the Egg, very good in team fights. It helps solve the team fights they need. In pub games, many people just underestimate what Phoenix does, the Dying Light facet, but also the attack slow from your Fire Spirits. I see the Grandmaster Phoenixes completely stomp pub games all the time because they're the only one of the 10 players who knows what Phoenix does. They know how to push limits. If you learn how to do that, I think this hero can do well. If you're just a casual Phoenix player, I still think it's pretty solid. I'd put it in maybe B tier just because with a little bit of understanding of what your own hero does. So many people will not be prepared to deal with the fire spirits in the laning stage. And then the egg is like a panic. Like some people focus it, some people don't, right? The coordination is not fully there in pub games. So ends up, I think, like a pretty decent hero. Snapfire is pretty good for some of these other heroes and good with them, such as the Clockwork, good against him, but good with him because he hookshots in, and then the support duo can get killed on their own. So a lot of pro teams like the Snapfire. Takes a bit too much coordination for my taste in pub games. I would put her maybe in C tier in general. The higher up in MMR you go, maybe up to B tier, but you need people to properly play around Cookie, and then you also need people to set up your ultimate to really shine. The reason I do think she goes out of D tier, though, is that her scaling, like there have been times there's been core Snapfire. So if you constantly get into those 1 hour long games, then Snapfire, you start building some right-click damage, like shooting people. You end up being able to solo carry games. So I'll put her in C tier for now. Pugna down to D tier. So I think he's okay. Pros are trying him after the Arcane Boots nerf, and he's just kind of annoying. Did I have him in A tier? He's maybe B tier for pros. I'm not sure. It's still relatively new. For pub games, though, you have to play him completely differently than the pros are playing him. The pros are playing very annoying laning stage and then buff up teammates with the ult, heal, things like that. The ward for when you're doing these early pushes, a very fast tempo hero. You're not going to play that way in pub games. You're going to play walk up the towers, blast them with Nether Blast when no one is dealing with a split push. You're the only one in that lane for 5 minutes and you take 2 towers. If you find success like that, then, there you go. Bump him up a little bit because he is a support that can push lanes on his own, take objectives, and technically scale as a core, you get kills, things like that. But the ideal Pugna, which is like a fast gameplay around support Pugna, often lacking in pub games, I put him in D tier. Crystal Maiden, I think we can actually just leave her in A tier. She's all around solid. The Arcane Boots nerfs hurting mana across the board for Crystal Maiden. Her passive helps a lot with that. Now, in pub games, I don't think a lot of people push the limits of, the difference between, like the 30-second, 1 minute timing difference, the mana difference, all that. Usually not pushed so hard in pub games. But the flip side is a lot of pub game players don't manage their mana well. They're using way too much for things they could just right-click. They're like throwing out spells. So Crystal Maiden just helps fix that by accident. She's also a hero that, without building Bracer, ends up decently tanky. Because she has a health talent. She often builds like 4-staff drums. There's health in those items. So she ends up just all around solid. I think a lot of people look down on her, but her spells are quite strong. And then you like Frostbite ult kill a core hero who thought they could just solo kill you. So I think she's pretty decent. Maybe like A to B tier. I'll leave her in A tier for now. We'll see where all the other heroes fall out. If you can hear meowing in the background, it's my cat, not your cat. Jupiter, tell the people. What is it? Which support? Omni Knight, great pub support. Everyone dives, and then he saves you with all his saves. No one's buying dispels. Excellent analysis, Jupiter. Thank you. Yeah, Omni Knight, probably S tier. S tier to A tier. I'm gonna put him A tier for now, just because I'm putting the headphones on. I don't even hear anything right now. Omni Knight prefers faster tempo games, which are lacking in pub games, but the counters to Omni Knight, like the dispels, the coordinated team play, focus Omni Knight first, stuff like that, totally gone. Many of you have experienced this. You play Omni Knight, you just save when your cores are going way too ham, you keep them alive, or when the enemy team is going way too ham, you keep your team alive, and you guys turn the fight under your tier 4s when the tier 1s are still up, right? That's what Omni Knight does. I actually think he has a higher win rate the higher up in MMR you go, which is actually quite rare. Usually it's the other way, which to me tells me that Omni Knight's strengths right now are more around the pacing of the game compared to the usual just save people, right? Usually his win rate is best at lower ranks, but it's actually flipped right now. So because of that, I'm gonna put him in A tier as opposed to the S tier he usually would be. Lich, though, I'm going to put Lich in S tier. I think Lich is fantastic right now. Just made a guide on him if you want to check it out. Where the hell is Lich? So I can put him on the list. There we go. A lot of free mana from his innate ability, just blast people. And then in pub games, they never split up, so you just ult, like, boop, 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 kill everyone. At the pro level, for both these heroes, actually, Omni and Lich, people just know how to deal with it, right? They're never going to give a ton of bounces for the ult. On Lich, Omni, they're going to build the counters, they're going to do the proper focusing, bring the silences, stuff like that. Lich actually is seeing a little bit of play at the pro level. I don't think he's doing too hot. Some teams are trying him out. Might need still like a little bit of exploration, maybe some buffs to help him out. But a lot of it is just people knowing how to play the lane around getting blasted all the time. They're going to buy enough regen. They're going to avoid it. They're going to like creep drag, stuff like that you're never going to see in pub games all that often. They will rarely give up free ult kills throughout the entire game. Right? Maybe you get one, but Lich in pubs constantly getting kills with the ultimate. To me, that's what makes him S tier. And as the game drags on late, I think his late game talents plus the Blink Ags build, which I'm really growing on, I think it's pretty good. I think it's like a solo win potential as a position 5, so I really like that. Alchemist 5, so at the pro level, it's more of a flex thing. Like, it's not the greatest position 5 out there, but you pick it because, like, could be carry mid Alchemist, but if it get counter too hard, we'll just throw it at support. I'd say it's better in position 4, but you do see position 5 Alchemist synergize with something like a Shadow Fiend, so you got some double negative armor there, amplifies the physical damage from the concoction. You're just annoying. You're constantly poking, but you are really playing with the carry to put that power to use. And in pub games, you just won't have that. You're going to pick like the Alk 5, you're going to like pick someone aggressive with physical damage and like Medusa, you know, and it's just going to be sad. A lot of people are just going to think you're griefing. I would put him in D tier because of that. Bat Rider, you could probably pick up a few kills in the laning stage from people who don't know Bat Rider support, which is even at the pro level, a strong laner. But then at the pro level, he'll do a lot of early farming stacks to clear himself, pick up a Blink Dagger, and then just go really fast tempo. That's the part that's tricky in pub games. They won't like the fact that you're farming and making stacks. They're like, oh, Bat Rider support making stacks for me. And then they see you farming. They're like, no. Then you get the Blink fast, but then they don't play with you at all. And you can't solo kill with the Blink Bat support. You set up for your team who are all in the jungle. So it ends up being quite difficult to pull off unless you are higher MMR. We're going to drop him down here. Lion, I feel Lion's just kind of like B tier right now. I don't think he's all that great. Way too many people just try to be super greedy, get the ag, stuff like that. You don't really need it. Just do the just regular support stuff. And then he's like fine, you know, he does scale well just because the way pub games go, you get a lot of ult kills. At the pro level, the ult cooldown is still a little bit too long, I think. But the stuns, some teams like it as like this playmaker. Yeah, it feels like pretty average to me right now. Marcy 5 has a lot of strong combos in the professional scene, like with Shadow Fiend. She gives the buff, but can also initiate with the W and the Q. I'd say position 4 Marcy is actually a little better usually, but you do see some position 5 Marcy. Actually, I guess it depends on the player. Some people like it, one or the other. For your pub games, you won't be able to abuse the strong laning as much in terms of here's the sidekick damage, we're going to outlast hit him, like our half-second faster ability, right? Some lifesteal, stuff like that. That part doesn't get as much. But a lot of people underestimate the engage from Marcy because you can jump at them with a rebound and then pull them out of position with dispos. You can pull a lot of people under the tower when they get too close. That often gets you a lot of free kills, and if you do get a lot of kills, you can scale up as Marcy because she can be played as a core. The ultimate is extremely threatening. So I'd say if you spend the time to learn how to play Marcy and start to understand the power of the dispos, especially in the laning stage, you could scale up. Just in general, might be a little harder to coordinate with teammates. You don't have great farming abilities. You kind of need to get kills to scale up. I don't know. B tier is also maybe fine for her. What the hell is Bristle doing in this support tier list, you might say? I'm not fully sure. I kind of do. It's been theorized for a while now that Bristle with Snot Rocket on the facet is just very annoying in the lane. You apply this slow and this negative armor, and you just whack people to death with your teammates. And the pro scene has tried it a little bit in the past and is trying it again a little bit right now. I see it win lanes and then lose the game. I don't think I actually saw Bristle 5 win. It may have. I just didn't catch all the games. But I'm curious about it. I'm actually going to try it myself to get a better read on this in pub games, which I get the feeling at lower MMRs, you will surprise people with the Snot Rocket power, get kills, and then classic Bristleback, long pub games, right? You scale into a core, so it works out. think the higher up you go, it's like a bell curve actually. In the middle, people won't capitalize on the early laning stage enough. The games don't last as long to get that super scaling. And in the mid game, you're just like this awkward 5 who doesn't quite do the same stuff, which what you do contribute in the pro level when they've tried it, Snot Rocket for the laning stage, and then Snot Rocket for the rest of the game as well. You get the shard early, and then you get whatever buffing items. And with just a couple stacks, it's actually a really strong slow. So if the enemy team doesn't have a bunch of mobility, you can just run at them. But that's why, to me, it's a flex pick that you pick early and like, support. But also, you need to win the lanes and then really push the tempo and just literally run at people so that they can't run away. And the pro scene will organize that. The pubs won't as much. I don't know, guys. I think a lot of people will think you're griefing. So I feel like we have to put it in D tier. I will maybe explore it later. Treant, I think, is still fine in pubs. Nothing really that different about him. I feel like somewhere between B and A tier. I'm going to put him in B tier for now. You're just like strong in the lane. People won't know how to like find you once you get shard. You can like scout around the map a lot. Downside is your teams aren't always coming to you to like act on that. So that part's a little awkward. But the ultimate is underestimated in many pub games, ends up being quite strong. So I do think he's at like 51% win rate right now. So not bad. Oracle might be S tier, A tier, somewhere in here. Very similar to Omni-Knight, just the saving potential in pub games is fantastic. When people go way too hard, your team or the enemy team, save them, great. I'm just going to generalize real quick, by the way, just to save some time on this video. For all these heroes in the C and the D tier, you're not one of the S or the A tier heroes, which, in case you can't remember, is these guys. The pros all want these 4 heroes. If these 4 heroes are available, very likely they're going to be first picked. And then like position 4s, there's the own tier list there. But you really only see heroes from this S to A tier. Occasionally you see like one of the B or the C tier heroes. Everything else is just not strong enough or does not match the utility or the broken elements of these different facets or whatever each hero is like broken for. The other heroes just don't compare. Right now in the pro scene, since the innate abilities and facets got introduced, some heroes just have crazy facets or crazy innate abilities that are way too good, and you have to go for those heroes. You don't even consider the other facets. In fact, some of you might know some of the facets. Clockwork, you know, expanded armature is really good. Do you even know his innate ability? Right? So the balancing is just not fully there yet. For pub games, it doesn't matter as much, right? And that's why we're redoing this list here. But I'm not going to repeat it too much for the rest of this video. That any hero out of the S and A tier just like kind of not worth the time until you get kind of specific in the draft. And then like all the other heroes were banned and you're like, this is exactly what we need. And it's offered by IO, like something like that. For pub games, like I said, doesn't matter. So let's continue on with that. Witch Doctor, somewhere between S and A tier. It's very similar to Lich, right? The bouncing on the cask and then the ultimate, people grouping around, but not actually focusing you. Maledict catching people off guard. Classic pub winner. I just double checked his win rate. So in the lower bracket games, it's like 53%. But then as you push up to Divine Plus, it dips down to like 49%. So depending on your bracket, you know, perhaps he's S tier, higher up in MMR. I do think people start to address it a little better. And he's not as consistent as Lich. Like even in Immortal games, Lich, thanks to the Frostbound facet, I think has found more value. And the laning is just more consistent because you're just blasting people. But Witch Doctor, you still need to get the cask bounces, Maledict combo, things like that. I think he's a little harder to pull off than Lich, especially just with the current meta, like the numbers. If you move the numbers around, then sure, like maybe he passes Lich, whatever. But right now, I'll just put him in A tier to B tier as you go higher up. Dark Willow, better as a position 4 in my opinion. People are going throwing shade facet. You just bring a lot of damage. You want to get like a blink and a Yules. And that's why position 4 is better because you get more farm. Pub games, you'll have that room to maybe go for those items or still go for other items. The reason it kind of dropped down, you used to have position 5 Dark Willows all the time, but Bedlam can no longer be cast on allies, so kind of moved her to position 4. And in the pro scene, you won't see it too much unless it's just like, we picked Dark Willow, but we want a different position 4. We can make this work. It'll be subpar, but it fits our draft. Pub games, I think it's not as bad, and a lot of people will underestimate you, especially your Bedlam damage. So I might put her in B tier. I'm not a fan of the coordination required to make Grimstroke work in pubs. I'd probably keep him around C tier because his tools are great if you have an aggressive teammate and if your team has picked up some single target spells to get value on your ultimate. But if they just pick, like, you pick Grimstroke and then they go Medusa. She's my classic example. I don't know. Medusa, it's just so sad. It's so awkward, right? Better as a position 4. You're more likely to get an offlaner who's willing to go ham. But for position 5, I'd put him like in C tier. Jakiro, we can bump up in pubs. I'd say A tier, just a really strong laner, good scaling. I don't know if we have to go further than that, actually. That's it. That's why Jakiro's solid. Undying has a decent win rate in pubs. There's not quite enough heroes that are weak to Undying, and the numbers aren't good enough for him. That's why you're not really seeing him at the pro level. But you still kind of just bully people in pubs. They underestimate. They go in. The decay into Tombstone Blood Grenade is still just like a bunch of free kills. You then miss some of the early tempo that Undying likes to have, but games drag on. That Undying reaches that other tipping point where a lot of pub Undyings get Aghanims and like kind of go from there. They're still ignoring Tombstone the entire game, even though the carry has like 50 million attack speed, still ignores the Tombstone. So because of that, I think like A to B tier, depending on the draft of the game. Like if it's a good Undying game, then it goes up, but you never know in pubs because you're like first picking. So I'll put them in B tier where a lot of these heroes are going to go. Ogre, classic in pub games. I'll put him in A tier. A lot of people underestimate learning curve, which is that you don't start with an ability, which can be punished, but in pub games, you know, they forgot you don't even have an ability. You hit level 2, you get 3 ability points, 2 points in Ignite, 2 points in Ignite, 1 point in Fire Blast, often leads to a kill with a Blood Grenade, and you just kind of like snowball the lane. Midas, very greedy, but games drag on a long time, and it pays off, so I'd put him in A tier. Bane, I think I'll move to B tier. I think the lower ranked games, Nightmare gets screwed up by your teammates all the time, and that's kind of tricky. I think he's just all around fine. The higher up you go, you're more likely to get value out of Nightmare. People will also prioritize you to like make sure they cancel your ult, but you know, I think he's not like particularly strong or weak. Just stick him in B tier. Mirana, I would actually move her down. You don't even see her much at the pro level anymore. She might have been D tier at the pro level as well. But right now, she's just gotten nerfed so much across the board that it's not great. If the game goes long enough, you could just scale up into another core, and if you like that, then go for it. The chances you hit an arrow and just stun a carry in the late game and get a free win off of that could be good. But just compared to so many other supports, they're all stronger in the lane than her. They can build similar items. Like, oh, you want a Solar Crest? Like, we all build Solar Crest, you know? So she's not in a great spot. Hoodwink, I feel very similarly to as like this Mirana. I don't know if I'd put her in D tier. I think the scaling on Hoodwink's a little better right now than Mirana, a little easier to get value out of. I don't love position 5 Hoodwink, but pubs, you know, you get the value, you scale up. I'll keep her in C tier. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm double checking the win rate on Hoodwink. She's actually at like 46% for the lowest bracket, and it doesn't really go up. That's the highest one. I guess she is kind of a tricky hero with the Acorn Shot and the Bushwhack. I win rate wise, I suppose she's D tier. I think if you really know what you're doing, though, you can move her up to like C or B tier, but let's respect the pub win rate. Let's put her in D tier. In the garbage. Okay, Dawnbreaker. I think she's decent. I'll put her in B tier. I think the ability to globally rotate is always very strong in pub games. The scaling potential for a position 5. Your laning stage is a little awkward, but pubs, you kind of like slip by that stage. So I think it's solid. And then the facet, the hammer one, the hammer that imitates your ultimate, I think that's a little bit slept on for support. For core, you want the other facet, but for support, I think that one's not bad. B tier. Gyrocopter, I think is actually right around C tier. If people don't respect you, you can still get kills with your Rocket Barrage. I think a lot of people have wisened up to that, and the numbers aren't amazing for support Gyro. I'd say for support Gyro, maybe a little better because you get to be a bit greedier. I don't particularly love it, but if you really know what you're doing, I think it's fine. I think the win rate's actually a little low. So I think C tier sounds good. Enigma, I'll keep him in C tier, but I don't know. The thing with Enigma is you got to have some decent micro. You got to know how to deal with it. You got to be a little greedy as a position 5 as well. It's not very popular even at the pro level, but pub games do drag on long, and then, you know, you scale, you got the black hole, which is really powerful. So if you find you're in those types of games and you can just get away with that really weak lane if you don't know what you're doing, or people just constantly walk into your 6 Eidolons and you get free kills, then he becomes a little more value. I'll keep him in the C tier. Io, Garbo in pub games, just way too much coordination for that hero. ET, I had to do a quick double check for ET. His win rate at the lowest of games is like 48 something, and I think it's because a lot of people will like waken up people who have been stomped, and the Earth Splitter's coming, and they start hitting them and waking up, and they all get out of your ultimate, and you're like, thanks, guys. But at higher MMRs, he has a really good win rate. I think it's just because the ET specialists are playing him, and I think when you get advantaged, when you get the advantage of people not knowing how to play against ET because he's very unpopular, the ET specialists know how to use it and get a really high win rate. But you have to be kind of on the higher MMR side, I'd say. So I'll put him in B tier, but if you know what he's doing, apparently he's like A tier level, like 54% win rate in the highest brackets. So this is pretty good. So somewhere in here. So after Weaver lost the free Geminate attack, which is totally fair. That shit was broken. He has not been nearly as good of a support. Hive Mind did get buffed, but even I haven't gone back to it, even though I was having a blast with that before. I think if he gets a small buff, I could see position 4 Weaver coming back, maybe like a buff to his stats or something. I don't know. We're supposed to get a huge change. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But currently, the laning stage is just a little too awkward for support Weaver without that free Geminate attack, and he was like nerfed to like kind of try to balance it, but it was like nowhere there. Now it's gone, and so now he's just left with the nerfs and not the free double attack. So position 4, I'd maybe put him in C tier. Position 5, I'm going to put him D tier. If you drag on really long, you do get the advantage of eventually scaling back up, and you could maybe move him up again. Venge, the swap, always really good. Laning stage, not the greatest right now, just where she's at number-wise. But I think the ultimate is always amazing for pub games. B tier, maybe? We'll get back to it, maybe. Rubik, he's a tricky hero. His win rate is always low in pub games, just because a lot of people play him incorrectly, having to know what spells are good, steal, all that stuff. I'd say he's not in a fantastic spot as a position 5. I'd say C tier sounds about right for him, which if you know what you're doing, you can make it work. And if there's some great spells for you to steal, then fantastic. But in games where it's just a very meh Rubik game, like how much you can do on your own, it just isn't in the best spot compared to some other supports. Disruptor, also on the lower end. I don't actually, maybe Rubik should even be D tier for a lot of people. I don't know. For the people who know how to play Rubik, C tier. If you don't know how to play Rubik, then he's D tier. I will leave him here for now. Disruptor, higher win rate than Rubik. He's just not that strong in the laning stage right now because of just, I don't know, numbers that he's been buffed and nerfed with. So just not in the greatest spot. Glimpse does tend to be quite good in pubs, but compared to other heroes, like you're just too weak in the lane compared to so many of these other heroes. And Disruptor's a hero who wants to play from ahead, and if you're not ahead, you might come back off of some really good glimpses from the enemy team messing up, but otherwise, you just can't get much out of it because no one's running away for you to glimpse back. They're just running at you to kill you, and you can maybe glimpse them away, but you just continue to fall far behind. So we'll keep him in C tier. I think Coddle's pretty meh right now for position 5. A lot of pub players end up griefing their own lane with Keeper. He's very tricky to pull off. The coordination with Chakra Magic, meh. Even though the Arcane Boots nerfs should benefit him with the Chakra Magic, for position 4, I will move him up, probably like C tier. Again, the coordination to really make use of it is just lacking in pubs. But his win rate does go up the higher in MMR you are, the more you know how to properly play this hero. I'm going to leave him in D tier. Jupiter's whining a lot today. We're going to hold on to him. Techies, there's too many heroes that are good versus him. Like, Techies wants a strong laning stage and to threaten to nuke people. Lich, instant terrorize with the Sinister Gaze, pulls him out of the ultimate. A lot of these other heroes, fairly tanky, magic immunity, things like that. No, you're going to escape and just cry outside. Techies is in a pretty bad spot. I'd put him in D tier. Skywrath, okay, fine, go. Skywrath, better as a position 4. I think his laning stage is just weak. I would still kind of, well, when I compare him to, I'll put him in C tier. I would rather have a Skywrath position 5 on my team than others. And I think he does better in pub games and at the pro level just because the people underestimate the ult, all that. I'll put him in, maybe he's like B. No, he's much better as a position 4. For a position 5, I'll keep him in C tier for the lower ranks. So the higher up you go, I think position 5 Skywrath is not good. Look, he's crying immediately. Muerta's a pretty good position 4 at the pro level right now. Position 5, a bit too greedy for it. You're not going to have the right pairings. You need to get kills with Deadshot and the Calling, or just casual harass with a Gunshot. or Gunslinger. We're seeing some people do that. But position 5, just not the best. Wind Ranger really dropped off after the nerfs. Wouldn't play her as a position 5. D tier for sure. Leshrac, actually, I think you can move him up with Misanthropy, I think is the facet name. The one that makes your W a shorter duration, so it does more DPS. You can get a lot of people off guard with that in pub games, get some free kills. I would move him up to C tier. I will do that as soon as... no, you gotta hang on. You're quiet while we're hanging on to you. Dazzle... Okay, so compared to the other save heroes, Dazzle's laning stage is not as good right now. I could maybe move him to C tier in the right games, but he's just in a not a great spot in terms of lane consistency. So his win rate tends to be quite low. I would maybe keep him in D tier, maybe C tier. Shadow Shaman, okay. All right, what did I say I'd put these people? Something like this. Shadow Shaman, you know the drill. This hero's like A to S tier. Let's put him in A for now. It's just classic. The ultimate allows you to win games on your own, split push, things like that. Fantastic lockdown for the cores not building BKB. Warlock, the classic S tier. Just your slow start to the game just doesn't matter in pub games. You're one of the strongest late game heroes. Everyone clumps up, so you hit everyone with your ultimate and fatal bonds, and you just win. Abaddon, really good in pubs. Not as good at the pro level, but in pub games, you're just another save hero, so similar strengths to the other save heroes in here. The Ags is apparently really good, again, because I think everyone's clumping in the fights. I never see it. Abaddon always has a high win rate, and I never see this hero because I think it finds most of its success like mid to lower games. Just a quick double check. His win rate is 55 to 56%. So I don't know, just really good in terms of saving people, and I guess scaling up because you do eventually like become a core. But I think you're just really good at protecting people in the chaos of a pub game. Silencer. Oh, we skipped AA. AA tends to be all right in pub games. I think he's got like a fine win rate. I'll put him in B tier for now. His laning stage is quite weak. That's why at the pro level, you just don't see it, even though there are some heroes with high regen that are popular, like the Alchemist, and sometimes you even see Huskars, but it's too late to pick an AA at that point, because your laning stage is just bad. But that doesn't matter in pub games. The ultimate, eventually you hit it, pretty good. Some good talent and scaling there. Silencer, another good pub hero, just because of the scaling potential there. I might put him in A tier. If you know how to get kills and all that, A tier. Maybe just B like average for other pubs. Did a quick double check. Yeah, the lower in MMR, Silencer's win rate is higher right now, like 53. But by the time you get to Divine Immortal, it's 49. So depending on your bracket, put them somewhere between A and B tier. Where are we next? Wyvern's laning stage. Oh no, Nature's laning stage is better as a core right now. There's just not really a great build for support Nature's, and a lot of people grief. If you take out the griefers and you know what you're doing, it could be okay. But it's just tricky to get things done with a Treant. You're less likely to get to 25, right? That's obviously, but like that's why core Treant is so good, or Nature's, because you get to that 3 times facet for core Nature's, and it just becomes crazy. You do so much damage, or you rat with the Treant. In pub games, you have more space to scale, but as a position 5, it is just still tough. If you know what you're doing, I would always say the global rotation potential of Nature's is really good. I feel like at minimum, he will always be a C tier pub hero, as long as you know what you're doing, again. But if you know what you're doing, you could also learn one of these better heroes with high win rates and have an easier time that tilts your team a little less. Wyvern's okay for pub games. Her laning stage is weak, but the ultimate is strong. Probably just like average B tier to me. Pudge. Oh wait, no, Venomancer. He is okay. Where do we want to put him? There's just nothing in particular going for Venomancer. I don't know how to describe it more than that. None of the builds feel amazing, but he does what he does. I guess that's the definition of average at the B tier. Who else? Who do we have? Pudge. Pudge will eternally be, if you can land the hooks, he goes up. If you can't land the hooks, he goes down. I know a lot of you hate to see him, but I would probably rather have a Pudge position 5 than some of these other heroes we have down here. and certainly more than like SF5. I don't know. I'll keep him in D tier. I know a lot of you don't want to see him above that. Sven support's kind of dead right now. They just kind of nerfed the armor facet that was good. I guess if you really know what you're doing and it's a good game for armor, then he probably moves up to C tier. And when I compare him to some of these other supports, I'd say trying to play Sven 5 in a pub is going to be easier than some of these, depending on your MMR. So, maybe C tier, but I'd say he's pretty out of the meta. I kind of just want to leave him in the D tier. Spirit Breaker, your laning stage as a position 5 is really awkward, and then you want to roam around a lot, which is just inherently not great for pub carries. They just don't know how to deal with that. But a lot of games are missing initiation, and especially like BKB piercing stuff, and Spirit Breaker is one of the best scaling supports in the game. You get crazy in the late game. So because of that, I'm going to put him in C tier as a position 5. Ringmaster. So I actually don't have Ringmaster on this list because he's not enabled in captain's mode, but I do think Ringmaster is really good. His win rate is really high in higher brackets. Lower brackets it drops because I do think it's a little bit tricky to make it work, and he likes to play pretty aggressive. And there's actually, like, he has all active spells and then the souvenirs, so there's a lot of button pressing that you have to get down, and you have to keep track of what souvenir you've got. So there is a little bit of a learning curve. I think if you know what you're doing, A tier, position 5 right now, if not higher. But it does depend a little bit on your bracket and how likely you are to get kills. I feel fine about this list. I'm looking through it. You can always shift things up and down a little bit, whatever. Guys, if you think I missed a hero, let me know. Leave it in the comments. Make your case for it. Otherwise, position 4 tier list soon, trademark. We'll see if the patch comes out now that this video's out. But I don't think the patch should come out till later, like maybe November 1st. So we have like a week. Play these heroes while you can, if you want to, or keep waiting. See you in the next video. Bye!